Actually, hold on one second. Should we put in some background music? Maybe we should. Um, I don't know. This is just a freeform thing. I decided to do a little stream on my lunch break, and I thought I would just discuss a little Project Epoch. I've been spending some time going through some of the files. Um, really, what's up, Ripoff? Like just reading different things about the project. I watched a video. If you go to the Discord server here and you go to Epoch and you go to announcements, I think there was a video in here even, I believe. Oh, it might have been updates, content. There's this one right here. They actually did a video here called Project Epoch Q&A. Founder answers the community top questions, which was interesting. I kind of went through the entire video. I think one of the things that was I really, one of the things I like about Project Epoch is their approach to kind of like boosting and GDKP. They're very much against boosting. They're very much against GDKP, which I think is great. And the thing is, I'm not a big raider. So when I approach World of Warcraft, and I've played WoW ever since WoW Beta in 2004, I approach it from the point of view of someone who just enjoys the game, enjoys class, like really theorizing and crafting classes and builds and trying to see how I can make those work in different contexts. So not always, really not usually rating though. Let me turn the music down as low as I can. And so I don't really care too much about rating. So when I watch this video on the community's top questions, and actually if we pull it up real quick, I'm not going to play it, but what I'll do is the video does have like time markers, right? Blizzard heat, they asked about, is there going to be heat from, I mean, who cares, right? It's Blizzard. Like, Blizzard's not going to do anything, right? I've been around private servers a long time, and we know that Blizzard really doesn't have the ability to close down any private server that's not hosted within inside the United States. I mean, they can put in their cease and desist letters, and if they get lucky, I mean, if they get super lucky, maybe there's an ISP out there that might abide by their cease and desist and basically not host a private server. But as that actually was answered by the founder within this video, where he basically said if that happened, we could be up in 6 hours on a different ISP. So worst case scenario, which I don't think that would ever happen, but if it did, that's not going to shut down Project Epoch, right? So we talk about Blizzard Heat, that's nothing to worry about. We talk about power scaling. I don't really care too much about the power scaling. I think that to summarize the power scaling was basically just that they don't really have to worry about the power scaling with gear too much for the first, not until like, even if this progressed into like kind of like Mist of Pandaria type content or something, or Warlords of Draenor, the gear that they have from 1 to 60 currently, which touches upon obviously vanilla and some TBC maybe, there's not going to be too many issues with scaling. They're retaining some of the vanilla aspects, keeping percent crit as opposed to crit rating, which I'm a big fan of. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of, I never really enjoyed saying, oh, I got 20 crit rating. What does that really mean? Right. And of course, everybody always adds like some sort of a GUI, a UI add-on that just translates that for you, or you hover over like something in a, like advanced character stats or something like that that tells you what the percentage is. Because nobody wants to have to sit there and calculate it on the fly, even though it's not that difficult to do, but no one wants to do it. So power scaling, I'm not really too concerned about. They talked about long-term database server strategy. That's kind of what I talked about with, maybe the servers getting shut down. They say all the stuff's backed up, I think, every 3 hours. So the worst case scenario, if they lose database or something, you're talking they have backups up to 3 hours. Ultrac Valley teasers. I don't remember what he said about that. Adding content to existing leveling dungeons. Basically, everything they've done in Project Epoch's pretty much already been done right now. So the only thing they're doing from now until launch date is just fixing any kind of like issues, any kind of bugs they can. Most of the bugs, I think he said there were thousands of bugs they had in their bug tracker, and that anything that was basically a high priority, even a medium priority, has already pretty much been solved. The only thing left is very much low priority, or like like graphical stuff like gear not rendering quite right, or maybe some sort of HUD elements not rendering quite right. Nothing that's a high priority or a game changer. Raising the level cap, they said no, at least not right now. No raising of the leveling cap. Official X Epoch merchandise, they said they don't know. I would imagine that this might happen. The one thing that was interesting about this video, and what I learned from this video, was that the original founder of Project Epoch never meant for it to be a big project, right? He never meant for this to be like some sort of huge project that thousands and thousands and thousands of people play. It sounded like he was just doing it for fun. It's kind of like a side project because he likes World of Warcraft. And it sounded like he was trying to come up with something more along the lines of how he would like vanilla to be. That's what it seemed like, and which is good. And so he never really thought of this as being, so he wasn't in it for it. This is what he says. And when it comes to private servers, you have to take this with a pinch of, grain of salt, because every private server is going to say, we're not after your money. We're not in for the money. I'd say 99% of the time that's not true. I think most private servers are doing it because they want to make money. I don't know if this guy's trying to make money off it. I don't think he is. It seems like, he developed a lot of this by himself for a little bit. I think he said for like 3 months or 6 months, it was all him working on it completely by himself until he got a few people interested. And the reason that this turned into a bigger project was it started to get some interest. Of course, a lot of it has to do with timing, where this slots into the releases of all the others, Season Discovery ending, people kind of tired of Classic, to be honest. Retail sucks. We all know that. But what happened was, after a few more people got involved in the project, and the way they were developing the project with some of the development tools they were using, I was really interested to learn that Blender actually has like a Warcraft, World of Warcraft, or Blender Warcraft, or Warcraft Blender. I had no idea there was a version of Blender, the 3D program, that actually works with creating objects that are used by the World of Warcraft game engine. So that was really interesting. I did not know that, and I'll have to look into that at some point. Blender Warcraft or Warcraft Blender or something. But that was interesting. I already knew that they were using JavaScript. I already knew that they were using some other tools that they have. And I think I've got a browser link up here somewhere. I've got way too many, but I might have it on a different window. Yeah, I don't think I have it open right now in this window. Maybe it's. I'm just really curious if I have it over here. Tech. Developer log. Actually, when you search for it, what's interesting is I actually searched for it, right? What technologies is project Epoch being developed with? I got an interesting reply. Man, the AI in Google is so much better. When you take a look at this, and this actually is TypeScript. I knew they were using TypeScript. They're using the custom Epoch time system is something that I saw in a video today. Actually, when the thing with the custom Epoch time system is what's that's doing. Hey, what's up, Pigeon? Yeah, Epoch I think Epoch is very interesting. And the more I learn about it, the more, and I've known about Epoch for a long time. I played one of the betas or something like a year ago or 2 years ago. So I had an account. I was in this first stress test and there wasn't a whole lot to do. The server seemed to run well. I couldn't be in the second stress test because I would like at a funeral, so I couldn't attend it. But they are using custom TypeScript, which is a little bit cool. It gives them a little more power. Don't know much about the third-party VM proxy. The time system, when I was going to talk about the time system, is instead of the regular Blizzard like day-night cycle, their cycle's much faster. So you're going to see day and nights come around much quicker. And the reason that's a little bit interesting is there's rares are spawning during different times during the day. So certain events and mobs will spawn quicker because their time clock is faster. Right, so if there's a certain event that someone does, right, like say some certain world boss spawns and people kill it, then you don't have to wait 24 hours for it to spawn again, possibly. Maybe it only takes like 2 hours, 3 hours, I don't know. But it definitely is going to be a faster time day-night cycle, which I think is cool. I haven't really looked at a lot of the extensive client server-side modifications. Wrath of Lich King, we all know it's Wrath of Lich King client. Anyways, that's enough of that. Trinity Core, open source. There's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot of different things they're doing. And if you look, there's even a developer log by Project Epoch that kind of goes through some of these things. I haven't had a chance to go through all of this yet. Maybe I will. But there's a lot of stuff on the website that you can go through. And I think the things that probably hit people, right off the bat, if you really want to get up to speed on Project Epoch, is you really have to look at each class individually. Like if you go into each of the classes, there's going to be a section that's going to talk about some of the basic changes for the class. Then you can go into, which is the overview. If I click overview, this is where we are. The overview. If you go to the spell book, you're going to start seeing the general spells that in Project Epoch, what the Paladin's going to have. You're going to look at all, and when you look at the individual spells, they're going to show some of them that might have been modified. Like you look here, the ones that are in purple here are updated. So if you read the tooltips on this, what you're going to want to do is compare those tooltips versus like the Burning Crusade, probably, because most of the abilities kind of are Burning Crusade era. The talent calculator is very similar to a Burning Crusade talent calculator. So I would take a look at each of these spell books if you're interested in playing that specific class. And I would just see what are the differences. What's been updated here. This one's been updated. This one's been updated. Actually, seal of light. What's it say? Unleashing the seal. Life 3 seconds. Chance to heal the best. So let's heal the Paladin for 39. So if we look here, right? Let's go. Wow. TBC Paladin skills, right? And Let's go here, and we're just going to look at Seal of Light. Most of, let's see, Seal of Light, Seal of Light. Here, Seal of Light here, you can see it says, he has a chance to heal the Paladin for 94, right? And then unleashing the seal will judge an enemy for 20 seconds, granting any attacks made against that target of healing the attacker for 61. If you look at the equivalent Project Epoch, what you're going to see is that it's different. And the ranks that are shown on the Project Epoch under this section will be the highest rank. So it may say rank 4 here. If you go to TBC skills for Paladin, it may say rank 4, but it may say rank 5. They don't have one-to-one ranks for every spell. So some are different, and I don't know why that decision was made, but there are some differences. But if you look at this here, it says giving each melee attack a chance to heal the Paladin for 39, right? And it says unleashing the seal will judge an enemy, granting attacks and spells made against the enemy a chance of healing the attacker for 25. If the attacker is at full health, they receive 5% increased healing from this judgment until it successfully heals. That's interesting. Your melee strikes will refresh the spell's duration, only one judgment. So you can read, they are different. Some of these spells are different. So if you're curious about Project Epoch, I would encourage you to go through whatever class you're looking at playing and looking at the spell book, the talents, the overview. I don't know if the talents talk about differences, but just take a look at this. And again, you can compare this towards the Burning Crusade. But I think most of the stuff, if you go back to the classes and go to like the class, if you go to like the main thing here, it's going to tell you some of the differences. You know, like how hands of some of this stuff was already in TBC, but the seal's interesting. The other thing that's really interesting is there's what's called. Let's see if we go to the features and go to let's go to is the review talent calculator features world player systematic. Let's see if it's under miscellaneous. They actually have the ability for once you reach level 60 where you can go through kind of lore quests based on whatever race you want to do. So if you're like a horde, like an undead, and you reach level 60, you can actually you can unlock or somehow go through these lore quests for like a dwarf. And once you finish all these dwarf quests, you will learn about the history of the dwarves or whatever, and you'll learn this. And by doing that, you'll unlock the ability to take the dwarf racials and make those your own. Of course, they will replace your undead racials. This can only be done once every 2 weeks. So you can't just like flip them like you couldn't. And I imagine the reason for that is that they don't want people to run out into the world and be a really well-known PvPer with a certain build and then be able to like kind of fool people. You know, you kill a bunch of people and then you completely change your build. Like you completely swap out your racials and then, you know, and 10 minutes later you swap them out again. You know what I mean? If you could like swap them out constantly, it would make things interesting, but I think it's better that they put a 2-week limit there. I was trying to find out where that was on the features. Expansion worthy, lore master. But there's as you dig into Project Epoch, there's so much more there than what I realized. Features, player systems. The epoch time was what I was talking about. That was like how the clock's faster. The difficulty, the scaling of the world should be more difficult. Let's look at the miscellaneous again. So I don't care about that. Where the achievement system for Wrath of the Lich King lives on. So it's interesting. You do have the Wrath of the Lich King achievement system, even though the talent trees are more like Burning Crusade. So there's a lot of mixed and matching going on. Looks like there's transmogrification, banking updates. I know that the ammo slots are also bigger, so you'll be able to stack like arrows. I think up to 250. I also know that most like arrow, like quivers and stuff, will have additional slots. So like running out of ammo will be more difficult because you'll be able to like hold a lot more ammo in your quivers. I'm trying to think what other things. I mean, obviously talent calculator. You guys can look at that. Player. Oh, here, racial knowledge. So the racial knowledge is every race in Azeroth carries unique traditions. You guys can read this, but there's quests for going through and unlocking certain ones of other races, so you can swap. And each race has its own kind of cosmetic. One thing is like the human can drop this little banner. One thing that like the dwarf can drop this keg. One thing that I thought was kind of weird was that the cosmetic for the night elf was the wisp spirit, which I thought night elves already had wisp spirit. Like when you die in vanilla, you already turn into a wisp. So I'm not sure if this just means you can turn into a wisp when you use the cosmetic. I'm assuming that's the case, but kind of sad. Kind of a little disappointed that they couldn't come up with something new. The gnome, you can actually, I think you get into a little you get into a little chopper or something. Um, but there's these different little weird cosmetics. It's more about adding some lore to the game and adding some more LARPing to the game. Um, this was interesting. The cultural expression through magic. Um, Power without flavor is hollow. In Project Epoch, every racial ability has been reimagined to reflect its culture's heart and soul. While mechanically balanced, these abilities feature unique names, custom icons, and entirely new visual effects for each race. So, if you have stone form for the dwarf becomes something entirely different in the hands of a Forsaken or a Night Elf. So, once you reach level 60 and you go through and go through the race knowledge unlocking for, like, let's say the dwarves. Let's say you're a Night Elf and you go through and you unlock the dwarf, um, racial abilities, and so then you have the dwarf ability stone form. When you cast stone form as a night elf, it's not going to look the same. And I think that's really cool. I didn't realize this until yesterday. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, and there's the cosmetic. Oh, and there's racial sets. Racial sets not simply unlocked, they are earned through discovery and understanding. Upon reaching level 60, you'll embark upon distinct story-driven quest lines designed to immerse you in the history, philosophies, and magic of other races. These quests are crafted to be fun, lore-friendly journeys. Now, this is what's going to unlock the other stuff, but apparently you get racial sets as well. So that's pretty interesting. The other thing, I don't know if I have it. Like, for example, here is an example of 3 different sets of gear for a paladin. So there's the Soul Forge, which I believe is just the tier. I mean, Soul Forge in regular vanilla is the tier 0.5 upgrade quest, right? The nice thing about that is you get like the spell power and stuff like that. Then there's the Holy Forge boost, which I don't know where this comes from, and there's the Vigil Forge. I believe I just googled this because I wasn't sure, but I believe this comes from PvP. There are PvP vendors in. When I went into the stress test, I was able to go to Stormwind, like kind of PvP room there where you can go and talk to the vendors. And some of this gear was available. So I think if we find, like I said, I got a lot of windows open here. But if we find the actual one that talks about PvP, we might be able to see. So, okay, so for PvP, gearing up. This is going to be overhauled PvP, no ranks. Our PvP system is inspired by some later expansions. This means we don't have the traditional ranking system, which is kind of cool. I never liked that. No longer do you have to maintain your honor gain every week just to keep your current rank. Instead, you earn currency to purchase your PvP gear detailed further below. Now you can basically flip war mode on or off. Once you flip war mode on, you cannot flip it off right away, or I think you can, but it actually costs gold. So if you turn war mode on, which flags you for PvP, if you want to turn it off, I think at like level 5 or level 10, I don't think you can turn it on until you're level, I believe 7 or something. But once you turn it off, it actually costs you gold, like maybe 1 gold. When you get to level 60, if you're at level 60 and you flip war mode on and you want to turn war mode off, it'll cost you 50 gold to turn it off. So they're trying to make sure that it's a conscious choice to say, hey, I want to be a PvP player or I don't want to be a PvP player. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They are going to put stuff in for Iron Man. So if you're going to play Iron Man, there's going to be things that kind of prevent you from getting killed through PvP. Like if you're doing quests that flag you PvP, they really shouldn't flag you PvP. If you are Iron Man and you like accidentally right click or something on a horde or something in your lines, you won't attack them. You're actually prevented from automatically like right clicking attacking somebody because of the Iron Man mode that you're in or whatever. So they've put some things in place to try to prevent you from accidentally flagging yourself PvP. There are achievements. It says here, some original PvP titles are available through achievements with a high warlord, grand marshal acquired through 100,000 auto kills. So that's pretty cool. And that gives you something to work for, right? Lots of kills. And ensure the PvP gear stays useful alongside PvE content release. We'll be featuring PvP seasons with the release of new seasons coming with new PvP gear and a reset to your arena ranking. So they are going to have arena with the release of Project Epoch. Server will be in preseason state. So this is very similar to what TBC had, right? Waiting the start of season 1, a number of weeks later. This again very similar to TBC. This gives players time to level and get their good feel. During the preseason state, you'll be unable to obtain most currencies, but there are preseason rare quality PvP sets to obtain. Only from the only battleground at the time we're saying Gulch. Again, this feels a lot like TBC. Let's take a look. So leveling up by blood too. Additionally, low-level players can find PvP gear of their own at vendors outside the battleground, such as here and here. Can be upgraded for a discount, allowing you to maintain a strong gear set while you level up. These are Warsun Gulch, so you can see these are Warsun Gulch. So here's the gear you can get from this particular, and look, looks like so this again, this kind of reminds me of like TBC, but you've got 15, 25, 35, and 45 PvP gear and armor, weapons and armor that you can get through probably marks from Warsun Gulch. You know what this means? This means that people are going to be PvPing like crazy on the server because PvP is I think, going to be one of the big focuses of this server because people are super excited about theory crafting some of the new things that exist, and because of the fact that the PvP war mode thing, the way it works, the way it's kind of encouraged you not to turn it off. And I think there's a lot of people that want to make a name for themselves as good PvP players, and I think this server is going to be highly streamed. And I think from PvP point of view, it's going to be incredibly active. So if you're a PvP player, I think Project Epoch is going to be a great place for you. Um, Marks of honor can be earned only through specific battlegrounds. People are having their own mark of honor, such as Warsaw Gulch. Okay, and these items, alongside honor points, conquest points, to purchase certain PvP gear. So here, he's getting, I don't see, it still says Warsaw Gulch. Marks. Okay, here we've got the honor, and looks like honor, and I'm going to say conquest points. Like here we've got honor, Altrock Valley, honor, Warsaw Gulch, honor, probably conquest. So your various stuff. We get the course, you got shock. So some different sets of gear. I'm imagining that that gear we looked at earlier for the hunter that I had, which is around here somewhere. I have way too many windows open. I don't know. It's gone here. I imagine that these are that I know the Vigil's probably from PvP. I don't. The Holy Forge may be from PvP. The Soul Forge I think is PvE. So, and of course, conquest points is going to be earned from tier activities such as battlegrounds with bonus and how much you can gain. Again, very similar to TBC. So the PvP system is pretty similar to TBC, with maybe a few slight variations. Rewards for the ruthless. I didn't really want to make this stream me just reading a bunch of stuff, but you guys can go to the website and read it yourself. But I think one thing that surprised me when we go back to that video I was talking about, back to this video here, I think one thing that was interesting was when they asked the original developer, like, if they were going to be creating any new content for the dungeons in Project Epoch. He basically said, not right now. I mean, he said they spent years crafting content. So every zone has new content. Like every single zone has new content they've added. Every class, I believe, has new class quests. Every class there's a ton. And if you watch the trailer, you can see there's like, what was it, like 1,500 quests and like thousands of new items. And the other thing that's really interesting is that the item databases for Project Epoch aren't public knowledge yet. So there's tons and tons, hundreds if not thousands of items that are brand new that no one has discovered yet, right? Like, so that makes gearing and speccing, like, it's all a big question mark. I mean, everybody always tries to theory craft and min max to death, which is good and bad, right? I mean, everybody loves to min max, right? But it can also be a little bit annoying. There's too many, people get try hard, get stupid about it. But I'm not a big fan of rating. Like I said, I'm not really a big fan of parsing. In fact, I'm kind of very much against parsing. I think it's kind of whatever. I think it just promotes like e-peening, which I'm not a fan of. But I think it's super exciting when you talk about the fact there's so much gear that's going to be discovered naturally just through walking through the world, and people are going to be posting in general chat, look what I found, look what I found. People in their guild like, oh my God, look what I found. I think that's going to be really cool. I also think that some of the changes to some of the classes, you have to go through every section of every class and kind of read through it to see what's really changed. Like, for example, the Paladin, some of their abilities, like Crusader Strike and stuff, they do holy damage as opposed to just physical damage. They've really tried to make sure that most of the Paladin's abilities are doing holy damage, and that way that damage is going to scale with spell power. So if you're like a holy Paladin, for example, and you have a shit ton of spell power, and you go up to somebody and you equip a two-hand weapon and you smack them with Crusader Strike, it's going to hit hard. So even a holy Paladin just leveling up, if they throw on like a two-hand weapon and start smacking people, they're going to do a lot of damage. Okay. So, leveling as holy is probably going to be quite a bit easier if you're solo and you don't have anybody to level with. That's pretty cool. Hunter, there's been some tweaks to the Hunter, but not too many. The Hunter's pretty much stayed. I don't think there's any too drastic changes on the Hunter. Those are the only two classes I've really looked at so far. I was going through some resources I found, Little John's spreadsheet on the Paladin. I really didn't see anything in here that was new, so to speak. I think looking at maybe like cap, like hit cap and stuff like that was probably useful on here, but outside of that, I wasn't too concerned with it. There was also, I don't know if I have it open, There's also another document that I had. I think I put it in my Discord. Get a project, Epoch, Paladin. There was like a Paladin FAQ I found. And I don't know if there's one of these for every class. I just happened to find this, which has kind of, just some interesting stuff, spell twisting, Crusader Strike, Hammer of Wrath, PvP set bonuses. Actually, I think, do they have? Yeah, they actually have, and that's where I got this image from, was from this document, which shows the different PvP sets. I like how they said PvP prod, which you guys know me. I love to run weird builds. I love to try to PvP as prod, or I love to try to PvP as like a melee hunter. I like to do really stupid stuff just because it's fun, and I like to try to see if I can make it work, which in most cases it's not going to work really well, but it's fun to try. But it's interesting here. It says in this document, it says PvP protection said only if your flag carrier or AV is available. Otherwise, no. I found that interesting. This is TBC, so I think if you understand how PvP works in TBC, you're going to have a good leg up on where Epoch is coming from. The one thing that I think is really interesting, and I haven't been able to get an answer to this question yet, and I have asked the question several times, is we do have 61 talent points. How do we get them? Like, I saw somewhere that like your first talent point comes at like level 14. Well, if you get a talent point from 14 to 60, you're only ending up with 47 talent points. So if you get 2 talent points from 14 all the way to 60, you end up with way too many talent points. So I'm not sure how the disposition of the talent points is going to occur over 1 to 60. All I know is that by the time you reach 60, you're going to have 61 talent points. I'm just not sure yet, and I can't figure that out. I've asked the question in Discord, but unfortunately the Epoch Discord is pretty much a circle jerk, for lack of a better word. Like the general Epoch channel, and they're just pretty much kind of garbage. Just a lot of spammy shit. Hey, what's up, Vols? So not really impressed with but that's not uncommon for Discord servers, for private servers. I think you're better off trying to talk in maybe like more of the class specific channel. If you're looking for class specific questions, but just trying to ask a general question in general, you don't get. Now let's just see. Let's see if Murphy's Law works. Let's try to ask that question right now. Let's go into the Epoch Discord and let's just say, how will we obtain our talent points? Does it start at 14? And how many points do we get per level? I've asked this question like 3 times, never gotten a response. So it'll be, if Murphy's Law works, I'll get a response now, right? Because you guys are watching it on stream, right? Somebody will actually respond. Because no one's ever responded to this. But they'll respond now because Murphy's Law, baby. And there it is. See, look. This is see, of course, I get a chance now, even though I've asked this question like 3 times before. Certain levels give 2 points. So, and look, this is so funny. And Vals, you know this. I've actually asked this question 3 times on this Discord server and never gotten a response. And I ask it now, and I get 2 responses. It's so funny. Like, I knew I would because I was doing it on stream. So every times 4 times 9 level past 10, you get an additional talent points. So 59 is the exception where it's moved to 60. Cool thing. So let's see if we can figure out what. No, I can't type anything because they got slow mode on. 1 second. All right. So he's saying every 4th level. I'm not sure what 9 level past 10. So maybe like at 14, you get like 2 talent points. Maybe. I don't really know what time. I don't know what that means. Like every 4th/9th. Do you guys understand what that means? Because I don't know what that means. Like if he would have said every times 4, I would be like, well, every 4 levels, right? The new big break points are 35 for the 31 talent and 44 for the capstone. So okay, let's just give him a thumbs up, right? It's so funny that I get all those responses when normally the Discord is terrible for asking questions, but maybe I just hit it at the wrong time. 59 twinks, but yeah. But it'll be interesting. I think, like I said, I've spent quite a bit of time today going through quite a bit of different things on Epoch, and it's crazy. Yeah, I got owned. You knew it happened, but I knew it would happen, Vols. You knew it was gonna happen, right? soon as I said this Discord never answers my questions, I knew. I was like, man, they're going to answer it now. 59 is the exception where it's moved to 60. I still don't really know what this means. He says, every times 4 / times 9 level past 10 gets you an additional talent point. So let's say that that's the case, right? Let's say at level 10, you get 1. At level 11, 12, 13, 14. So what? You get 1 here, you get 1 here, you get 1 here, and then here you get what, 2? That still isn't going to work. So like, well, maybe it will. Let's say 15, 16, 17. Here, let's make this even easier. I have 60. I have a WoW character that gets talent points starting at level 10, and every 4th level they get 2. For example, at 10 they get 1, at 11 they get 1, at 14 they get 2, right? Vols, dude, thank you, Vols. I appreciate the appreciate the donation, man. At 14 they get 2. Can you compile their points and show me each per level up to 60? Let's see if it can do it for me real quick. You said 100 bills. Yeah, you think you want me to do 100? Ready for pre-launch? Yeah, we could go through some 100 builds, but they're not like that different. Yeah. Will you allow you to put 2 points in without moving the level requirement at the intervals? For example, 14. Oh, so 14, 19. So he was saying 2 points at 14 and 2 points at 19. Okay, we can do that. Okay, so let's do that. So is there a reset on this one? How do I reset? There's no reset on this thing. There is, reset. And let's do Hunter. So you're saying required level. So if I go to here, it says, okay, cool. So it says level 11. So if we go here, so at 14, we've used 5 talent points. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So theoretically, I should have 1 more point. I think, if that's what you're saying, Michael. So if I put 1 more point here, it should still say level 14. And it does. So that makes sense. And then it should be 15, 16, 17, 18, right? 15, 16, 17, 18. And then at 19, we should be able to put 2. So we should be able to put 2 points here, and it'll still say 19. Yeah, okay. Ah, genius, Michael. So that works, right? So that shows us exactly when they fall. Yeah, 12 points every 10 levels pretty much. Yeah. We'll look at, so, I mean, I'm looking at the classes, like what class do you want to play? I mean, I haven't gone through all of the classes yet. I watched a few videos that other content creators had made. Nothing I saw was really groundbreaking. I didn't really see a lot. I mean, I went through like Lil Jon's like Paladin spreadsheet, and honestly, I didn't see anything here that was super useful. I mean, you can look at like miss rates, and I mean, he's got like raid buffs, consumables, and all this stuff. And none of this matters to me. Like, I've played classes for so many years that to me, the way I do it is I go out and if I'm like level 10 or level 20, I find a really difficult mobs, and I take on 2 or 3 at once. And I say, how am I going to survive? Like, I put myself through the paces. And then I use that as my barometer. And if I want to look at damage, I'll look at recount, or I'll look at some of DPS add-on. But what I do is I'm going to say, okay, I can kill this level 60 mob. I can kill this level 40 mob when I'm level 38. How much damage did I take? How much damage did I do? Okay, let's kill 2 of them at the same time. Let's kill 3 of them at the same time. Let's kill 4 of them at the same time. When do I struggle? When do I die? And if I die trying to kill 3 at the same time, how can I change my talents in a way so that I can kill 3? How do I change my talents so that maybe I kill them faster by doing more damage? And how do I change my build so that I don't do more damage, but I take less damage? That's the way I do it. Because to me, it's all about the gameplay, not so much about, I don't want to look at a bunch of spreadsheets. I don't care about that. If you look at my stream last night when I was playing a Death Knight, that's what I did. I ran into like Aconite Crypts on my 63 Death Knight, and I just started killing elites. And I said, how can I survive with this blood DK, right? And to me, that's fun. And to me, and the other thing that really is good about doing it that way is then if you get into a situation, even if it's PvP or PvE, and the shit hits the fan, let's say you're fighting somebody in PvE, and you've got the upper hand. and then all of a sudden, two other people drop in on top of your head, you're not going to be so scared or so unprepared because you will have already put yourself in a situation, even though it's a PvE situation, of fighting multiple mobs at once. And so you'll understand what's the rotation I need to go through to mitigate damage. What's the rotation I need to go through to emphasize my self-healing if you have self-healing? What's the rotation I need to go through to emphasize my CCC and burst to get one person down as fast as possible? Those are the things you need to learn. So I don't think staring at spreadsheets is that great. You just need to understand what stats do what for your class, what stats give you crit, what stats give you dodge, how those things can be implemented, and then maybe like there was something something else I was going to say. It was around the tip of my tongue and I forgot it. But there are other things. Oh, hit rating. I was going to say, of course, you need to know what your hit cap is going to be. And if there is anything to do with like expertise or any other specific ability, like maybe dodge or maybe, level comparison, like, okay, if they're like level 3 and I'm level, if they're like 3 levels above me, what am I looking at? What kind of hit rating do I need to try to offset that? If that's something, if you want to think about it from that point of view, which in most cases, you're not going to, if you get a PvP counter and someone's 3 levels higher than you, you can't do anything. It's not you can say, hold up, buddy, while I go get my hit gear. Hold the phone, hold my beer. You can't do that. The shit's going down. So you just have to handle it the best way you can. There may be a thing where you have different gear on your inventory. That's one thing I thought of. I always thought about doing a PvP protection paladin where I basically ran around with like 2 or 3 sets of gear. And one of my sets of gear would be a high resist gear. Like if I ran up against like a frost mage, well, I'm going to throw in my frost resistance gear and maybe I'll pop a frost resistance potion and let's go. And we'd go kill them. And we probably might be able to. But, there's like really niche weird stuff you can do. There's different trinkets you can use, different engineering things you can use. But yeah, I don't put a lot of stock into spreadsheets personally. They're good for some people. For me, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. What else is there? I think, yeah, I'm not too. I think the thing that excites me the most is kind of. Oh, also professions. Another thing about I think I'm really excited about is the professions, like the changes to professions, like different things they're adding to professions. What race to play? Like if you're gonna go hunter? Like I'm definitely, I don't know, I haven't decided what class. I mean, if we look at the classes, right? The classes I typically play are hunter, paladin. It's a good sheet, but it's not something that I need. Like this is a pretty good sheet. This was made by Little John. So if you go into the Discord server, if you go into the Discord server and just find Little John, you can message him and ask him questions about it. Again, it's not. One thing that annoyed me about this is it wasn't. I couldn't edit it. Like here, I was trying to look at it and say, "Oh my god, look at this dwarf's got 8,339 health," and I switched over to a human. The human's only got 6,366 health. Why is that? Why does the dwarf have so much more health than the human? And I was like, "What's going on here?" But then, of course, I realized he's got consumables checked, raid buffs checked, blessing of kings. He's got all these things checked that are going to increase his health, right? Raid buffs and consumables. Where when you went to the human, we didn't have consumables. We didn't have raid buffs. But when I tried to check these, I couldn't. It wouldn't let me check them. So that's kind of pointless if you're not going to let me like apply the same buffs. So yeah, I couldn't toggle them. Like if I go to the dwarf and I try to just toggle it, it doesn't do anything. It just says true. It'll only let me toggle it to true. So, and I don't know why. So that's really weird. And it doesn't seem like this is view only, so I can't edit it. So this is a view only, so that I can't edit. If I could edit, I could fix it, but I can't fix it. And you can see here, he even specifically said it's editable. So you can go here and modify this cell, but yeah. I could make a copy, but it's just not worth it. Like I said, I'm not a spreadsheet Andy. It's not really that worth it. And to be honest, if we gave like the human like the same check marks, the stats are probably going to come up the same. Again, what is this, how does this really help me? Like how does this spreadsheet help me? I mean, I mean, I tell you, the way it does help you is if it's accurate as far as like if these items are good items. I think what would be useful for a spreadsheet is if you could swap out different pieces of the set gear. Like if this thing had drop down lists of all the 3 different set gears, right? Then I can swap those in and out. That would be useful. Or if you could easily swap out some talents, like core talent, like specific ones. Like here you've got intellect and strength, for example. I think some of those things. But again, I'd rather just do it in game. The only bad part about in game is there might be a cost for respecking. So it might not be that simple to just respec. And it might be that simple just to swap gear in and out because you don't have access to the gear yet. So yeah, I can see the benefit there. If you could swap out the gear, swap out the talents here, then yeah, it's definitely going to be useful. So yeah, I mean, it could be useful. I'm not saying it's not useful for a lot of people. I'm just saying I like to get in the game and play, then spend a lot of time looking at a spreadsheet. But I would find it very useful to get a listing of, and we do have that. We do have the Paladin gear here, and that's just some of it though. But we know what the sets are called. So, well, we have all the talents that matter for what he thinks, right? Maybe matters. That's debatable, right? That's debatable. Oh yeah. I think I've seen it. Where was it? Let's see. I think I put it in my Discord. Like if you go here and you look at AoE protection paladins, you can see there's definitely some builds that are in this document, so you can take a look at them. Yeah, you can definitely take a look at some of these builds, and they're decent. I thought that was interesting. I think this one was pretty interesting, and I think I pulled this up at one point. One thing was interesting is when I look, because our Quintos, I have thousands of hours on Protection Paladin in vanilla, like thousands of hours, like thousands. If you go to my YouTube channel, right, and you just search for Protection Paladin, right, you are going to have to scroll an awfully long time before you get through all of my streams on playing Protection Paladin in vanilla. And I mean, you could be scrolling for like 5 minutes probably. I mean, I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of videos. I've played a shit ton of Protection Paladin, whether it's Wrath, Classic, TBC, whatever, but it's mostly vanilla. So I've got a ton of time on Paladin. Yeah, no, well, it's TBC. It's not going to be, it's TBC, right? No, yeah, and I have played the beta. What's up, Doug? Yeah, it is TBC, and I'm not saying it's the same. I'm just saying I've played a lot of Paladin, so I want to go into the game and play it. I don't want to spend too much time looking at spreadsheets, is all I'm saying. That's just not the way I approach it. I don't approach it from a spreadsheet. I approach it from I want to go in there, get some gear, and hit some mobs and see because I'm going to know the difference. I know what it feels like as a level 45 Paladin killing like 7 mobs of my level at the same time. I know how that's supposed to go. So I want to see based on the abilities how that's going to go. Well, that's the thing. Like you said, it's different. So we're going to have to like figure it out. Like that's what I was saying. If you looked at this post he had here, where was it? I think I have too many windows open. Too many windows open. Taking. AoE protection is able to main tank. So this is the one, right? Let's take a look at this one again. How would I talent? Well, the way I did in vanilla is probably going to be, like you said, a lot different, right? So in vanilla, I would definitely have divine intellect. I would definitely have seal of righteousness if it was a vanilla, right? But again, these talent trees are different because I would have to go down into holy to get consecration, which we don't have to do that in TBC. And I haven't played TBC in a long time, so I don't really know how I would talent it in TBC other than we may not go this route because we're probably not going to be using righteousness anyway. Now, he's not... the way he's doing it is more for like speed. He's you see a lot of these paladins that do this for like grouping and raiding, right? See, this is like raid. You can see here he's going with pursuit of justice. This is just for uptime, moving between packs just to make things go smoother. Also, what's interesting here is he doesn't take shield specialization, which I thought was interesting because I don't believe this specific build was focused on two-hand because he says right here, he says two-hand tanking. That's here. That's not here. So I didn't think he was really speccing this one to be two-hand taking, but he's not taking shield specialization, which I thought was a little interesting. The rest of these are pretty straightforward. A little surprised he didn't grab 1 point in Guardian's favor, just because but again, this could just be simply because in TPC you may not need to bop people. It could be that just the healing is so strong that, because like in vanilla, for example, in vanilla, I will always take 1 point in Guardian's favor just because if I'm doing like 5-man dungeons, there's always going to be a time where I'm going to bop a rogue or bop the healer because they're going to pull aggro and, and they're going to get killed. And so I'll just throw a bop on them just to reset threat. That's probably not the case so much in TBC, but I mean, TBC, the original TBC, there was quite a bit of threat issues. There was quite a bit of issues of, people pulling too much and healers getting killed. But the game's changed so much because of the optimization, because the way people spec things out. It's not like it was back in 2007. This I definitely would pick. This is what I would pick. I would go Benediction. Improved Judgment, you don't have to go 2 out of 2, but you can. Deflection, yeah. 3. This is all fine. I personally myself, I wouldn't waste my time with this, but this is more of a rating thing, and I don't like to raid too much. So this is, I would never pick Pursuit of Justice. That's just me. I don't go for speed leveling either. I play more for like enjoying the game and trying different builds out and try to see how far I can push each class based on what build they have. Like how much AoE can I do? How good could I PvP as a protection bout? How could I PvP as like a melee hunter? I know I can PvP really well as a BM hunter. I know I can PvP really well as a marksman hunter, but it's like, why do that? That's boring. I've done that before already. I don't need to do that again. So I'll approach this as building like kind of off meta builds, stuff that are weird, and try to figure out, especially what's going to be really interesting is with all the new gear they've put into the game that we don't know about yet, it's quite possible there is some gear in there that could allow some like really off meta builds to work, but we're not going to know until we see that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Yeah. It depends. Increase the amount of damage absorbed by a shield by 10%. Yeah. I mean, 30%, it's not going to be a ton. But again, it's more of an AoE thing. Shield specialization is more for AoE. Like for example, like a lot of people used to say that like getting, for example, improved retribution ore wasn't that good. Well, it is if you're fighting like 10 mobs at once, right? A lot of people, you may think that shield specialization isn't that great. Well, it is if you're fighting 10 mobs at once, because that 50 damage times 10 is a shit ton of damage. So it really depends on the situation, right? If you're fighting one-on-one targets all the time, yeah, you don't need it, right? You don't need it. Yeah, he doesn't have improved Seal of Righteousness here, which I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, if he's not using improved Seal of Righteousness, yeah, I found that to be interesting. Now, this was straight from this document here, where he said that. I thought he mentioned by name the person who used this build. Or use if they're just has no good access in raids and dungeons during the beta, but gearing it depends on how much you can squeeze into gear, giving enough survivability. This build used by La Lily worked wonders on the beta. Even better now that Ardent Defender works. This was Source La Lily, tanked Ortog during the beta as main tank protection. So they actually had this build. And like I said, normally like going into, well, you can't link, I don't know if you linked your build here, but you can't put links into the stream here. If you want to do if you want to link in my Discord, you can. Yeah, you can't link into YouTube. Probably Discord. I don't think I've ever gone to the class ones here. Let's take a look. Oh, I see you didn't go with deflection or improved judgment, which is not bad. Yeah, I agree with these. These are good. This is what I always would go to intellect into seal righteousness. Good, good. You didn't go to 5 out of 5. It's not a big deal. You want threat, of course. Good. Blessing of kings it just depends. I mean, obviously, if you have another paladin who's throwing out kings, you don't need it. Anticipation. I mean, to me, anticipation's kind of. I mean, it's only 20. Like, what is 20 in the realm of like dodge, parry, block, right? What is that like? What is that like 80%? Like 0.8? So I think it's 25, right? If your defense skill is, I think it's 25, right? It's going to give you 1% block, 1% parry, 1% dodge. So 20, what's that give you? Like 0.8. So I've never been a big fan of anticipation because I think it's a lot of talent points just to get like, not very much out of it. So not really a big fan of anticipation. Reckoning's fine. Blessed Sanctuary is fine. One hand, of course, good for, you just want this for threat. Sacred Duty's great. This is pretty much, in my opinion, mandatory, mandatory, mandatory. All this is mandatory. Like down here, I think from this row here down, you should always have this. I think if you're going to do like Protection Paladin. And also, Sanctuary. So yeah, this looks fine. The only thing I would argue with is I'm not really a big fan of anticipation. Personally, myself, I would rather have shield specialization than anticipation. I would actually probably go 3 here and 2 here and take the mitigation of the extra armor and the extra shield. Now, again, that's going to be more useful for multiple targets. But yeah, for me, I would dump anticipation and put your 5 points into shield and toughness. The other thing is, I would like to grab some parry in here if I could. Like if there's anything you could sacrifice to get some parry, I think parry's pretty nice. Also, you got to think the parry haste. Every time you parry an attack, your next attack comes out faster. There's a little bit of what we like to call parry haste. So you're going to get a little bit of faster attack speed. And if you've got a really fast weapon, which is kind of what you want, if you're doing a one-hand shield with a protection paladin, then that's going to be pretty useful. Yeah, that's really the only thing I'd say about your build. You know, I don't see anything else that I dislike, really. I mean, it's not going to be a lot of differences on paladin builds. I think really it's more the going for, are you going to do like AoE, or are you going to be doing like, you know, skip parry, you can just reach avoidance cat with relying on redoubt. Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know. I can't like refute you on that one. I'm just saying parry's pretty good. And I wouldn't say drop Seal of Righteousness. No, I definitely wouldn't get rid of Seal of Righteousness, because this is just going to increase your threat. So you're definitely going to increase your threat here. I'm a little bit surprised that other person didn't take Seal of Righteousness on their build. I'm not sure what the thought process was on this one here, where they didn't take it. You can see they did get parry. I like parry, and having judge up a little bit more often is useful. But it's not as necessary in this as it would have been like in vanilla, because in vanilla you don't have a taunt. So in vanilla, one of the ways you can taunt somebody is to basically equip a 2-hand weapon really quick and judge them, right? If you've got like Seal of Crusader judged, you throw up Seal of Righteousness and judge them with Seal of Righteousness with a 2-hand weapon, hopefully you're going to get crit, or at least hit pretty hard, and that's going to be kind of your only way you can really do kind of like a taunt, because you don't have a taunt. So. But in TBC, I'm not sure. Like I said, I haven't played TBC in a long time, so. But yeah, your build's okay. But again, like I said, I'm not a big fan of anticipation. You want to avoid the respec gold sync. Paladin is stuck being main tank in raid settings. Yeah, well, I'm not a raider, so it doesn't matter for me. You won't see me raiding too much. You'll see me just more playing around with different builds and just exploring what changes they've added to the game, as far as like, quests, lore, trying to figure out the new gear that's out there. PvP, I'll definitely be doing a lot of PvP because I like PvP. So PvP battlegrounds. I don't know if I'll be doing a lot of arena. It just depends. There's going to be a lot of tryhards, so we'll see. Depends on how many douchebags are out there, to be honest. Which usually there is a lot. And Faust, all about that. Thanks again for the donation, Faust. Yeah, Raider Dave, you said you're mega hyped for Epoch. Yeah, I think the other thing that was interesting about the video, like the video, this one, is there was one part where they talked about boosting and GDKP, and I'm just gonna play this for you. I want to play this for you. You're gonna be gapping. I want to play this part for you, right? Listen to this. Where is it? That's he just goes. He goes. That's a ban, right? Just right off the bat, that's a ban. I mean, hard reserves is basically what he's saying is like you construct a raid, and you basically just tell people who come to the raid that we're putting hard reserves on certain items that they know are going to sell for a lot of gold. I mean, I think that's okay. To me, it's kind of douchey move in my opinion, but whatever. That's okay. If you don't like it, you just don't go with that person. You don't go with that raid. You don't go with that guild. If you don't want to deal with that kind of, oh yeah, we're going to go into molten core, but we're hard reserving like all the bindings or whatever that is they're hard reserving. I don't know, but they're really doing it for money, so it would be like buying unequipped items. So Yeah. Yes, yes. Which is awesome. I hate GDKP. I don't care. I don't I don't care about hard reserve. Oh, you can't hear this? You cannot hear this? What? Hold on a second. I didn't know you couldn't hear this. Hold on 1 second. This is but yeah, sorry about that. We got I just moved into a new place and some of my equipment just got shuffled around a lot. So let me fix it. Just give me a second. Sorry about that.
The gold from
I don't have a concrete answer off the top of my head. I'd have to speak with the others.
Sounds like a
Generally, when
ban.
it comes to things like that, I lean on the side of let's not rules lawyer the hell out of.
So basically, what he's talking about is he said GDKB, it's a ban. If you're doing GDKB, it's a ban. He was saying if people are like hard reserving items, it's like, I don't really care too much. We don't really care. We haven't really talked about that too much. Again, my point on that is if guilds or like pugs are saying we're hard reserving items, if you don't like it, in my opinion, you just don't participate in those things. That's the way I look at that.
Of it. So
are GD directly asking up front.
I, off the top of my head, don't have a specific answer. I will raise in general the spirit should be you're not paying gold for items other than craftables and so on and so forth, and like world drops that you're selling on the auction house.
Yeah, fuck
That
you.
sounds like just
Someone asked in chat, so boosting is
That's
bannable.
nice.
But there's a really good question coming up. If I haven't fast forwarded past it, I wanted you guys to hear.
The answer is yes, boosting technically is bannable, but you'd have to really struggle to do that because we've got measures in place specifically for experience boosting, where mentioning the grey level that came up earlier, as an example, if you're in an instance group and there's a level 60 and the rest of you are like level 20 something and you're blatantly been boosted through, it will check the lowest level member to the highest level member, and if that range is larger than the grey level, which is about 9 levels difference, then the XP just goes to 1. It can't go.
So that's interesting. So he's preventing the boosting. Like, so if you're like level 16, you take like a level 35 through, I don't know, whatever dungeon you're running through, you're not going to get much experience. But I think it's fantastic. I'm not a fan of boosting. I think it's cool that as a guild member you can try to help out other guild members, but I don't think you need to. I think there's kind of a limit to that. I'm always on the mindset of I spent time leveling to 60. You should spend time leveling to 60. I don't think it's. I just don't like that. I don't like the idea that I went into World of Warcraft, spent time getting to level 60, and then someone else comes into WoW like 2 weeks later, and they don't do shit. They don't even play their character. They just stand there while someone runs a dungeon over and over and over again, and they level up and they haven't done anything. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that at all. I think that's bullshit. Sorry, it just is. I think everybody's on the same playing field. If I took my time and effort to do something, I think you should have to take your time and effort to do something. To me, that's just fair. It's just fair. So that's just the way I look at it. The other thing is one thing that was said here, and I think I fast forwarded through it.
I will raise it with the rest of the team, and if we you're not paying gold.
That sounds like just
someone asked in chat or there if you somehow
I think it's coming up
managed
actually.
to work around that, I guess.
Can you elaborate about the guild running players through for like quests and gear?
Quests and gear is relatively
obviously quest and gear is fine. Like, here's the thing, like if you want to help someone level quickly, it's super easy. Just like they do the normal quest that you did, but as a high level character, you can come along and help them. If it says, hey, you got to kill 10 turtles, and you're this level 60 comes along and helps you kill them, yeah, you're not going to get much experience from actually the kill of the turtle, but you're still going to get the quest complete, and you're going to get the regular experience you would get for the quest. So that is certainly helping you level quicker, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Reasonable, so you're charging for it. Like if you're just a guild who's like, I'm gonna help my mate and get him up there, that's fine for the most part because there's at least some variety that you're not expected to actually get the item every time. But particularly XP boosting is a nefarious problem. I think most people can agree with that.
Which I think is funny is he says that most people can agree with that. The funny part is I don't think most people agree with that. I do. I'm not a big fan of boosting, like the way that we're talking about, where you just basically run someone through a dungeon over and over again and they don't do anything. I'm not a fan of that. But there are tons of people out there who are.
Do you mean XP boosting as in paid XP boosting or XP boosting in general?
Just in general. Like, we don't have any differentiator between the two. A level 60 will not be able to help a lower level get a large amount of experience. level correctly.
I love that. See, I 100% agree.
Hell yeah.
And this would apply to
Large amounts of experience.
My favorite part is the guy who asked this question, you can tell he didn't agree with it. Because when he said absolutely level correctly, the guy who asked that question, dead silence. Didn't say anything. If he would agree with you, he'd be like, oh yeah, cool. He didn't say that. He didn't say anything. Right? Listen to this.
Between the two, a level 60 will not be able to help a lower level get a large amount of experience. Level correctly.
Hell yeah.
and this would apply to methods such as tag farming as well.
Correct, yes, it applies everywhere. Yes, there is a small amount of grief ability there. Kind of, we knew that existed in as much as, you know, a level 60 player going into a low level zone, doing one tap on a mob and taking people's experience. But we have general broad rules about don't be a harassing, griefy prick, and we'd just ban you if you were doing that. So the greater good outweighs that small edge case.
Have dungeon farming like sulfuric have it been
just really quick, if you couldn't hear me at the end, sorry about that. I just moved. I got it to a new house that I just bought. So I just reconfigured my whole streaming setup, like literally within the past couple days. And so I'm having a little technical issues because not everything's quite set up the way it was. It's not quite, there. It's getting there, but I'm still working through a few issues with some of my. I've changed some of my cables, changed some of my configurations. I got a new desk, and I got some new peripherals. So just sorry about that. Normally I don't have any issues with my stream, so it's just a matter of me working through some pain points of shifting from the apartment to now a new house with a new office and a new stream setup, and there's just a bunch of stuff that's different. So sorry about that. But yeah, I'll be back like I said later tonight around 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll talk more about Project Epoch. I'm super excited. I think it's going to be really cool. I think there's going to be two big camps. There's going to be a big PvP camp where you're going to see a lot of people pushing PvP on Epoch. And then I think you're going to see the big camp of people that are trying to push progression and raiding. I'm actually probably not going to fall. I'm going to fall more into the PvP camp than I am the other one, the latter. But honestly, I fall more prominently into a third camp, which is just someone who wants to enjoy the world and the changes in the game and try to create different builds and different ways of playing classes that really aren't that popular. Because I've played the game since 2004 beta, so I'm just, I've done so many different things so many times that I'm bored with doing those things. It's like I don't want to go and create the same Paladin I created before. I don't want to do the same raids I've done before. So I do want to do some of the dungeons and stuff that have changes, obviously. Where they've made a lot of changes, I certainly want to try those dungeons and stuff. And I would like doing some of the raids, but I don't get along with people very well, so it's hard for me to get into big groups of people because I just, and I'm a lot older too. So, a lot of the younger people, I just look at them and I kind of laugh because they're EP-ing it. They're trying to brag and they're trying to strut their stuff. Look at me, look at my parses. And I don't give a shit about your parses. I'm more interested in just having fun and having playing the game for fun and having fun in the game and enjoying the world, the open world aspect of World of Warcraft, which is what I've always enjoyed, just the exploration. And I think I'm hoping that what we can see is a lot of improvements in the professions and a lot of improvements in the class design in a way that those changes will start to change over the next year or two. Because they have said they're going to continue to make changes. They won't be right away because the first year is probably just going to be, here's what we have, this is what we've done, you guys can experience it, we'll see where the bugs are, we'll fix those. But I think after about a year, we'll start seeing bigger changes. I think initially the changes are all going to be revolved around just fixing the bugs and maybe fixing any kind of imbalances in PvP or PvE or imbalances in gear that they didn't foresee. Because when you add that many new items into the game, you're going to find issues with those items. People are going to abuse them. People in WoW are really good at figuring out ways to abuse stuff, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually one of the coolest things about WoW is you find something that's super OP. I mean, that's neat, it's fun, it's exciting. So I have no problem with that. But those are going to be some of the things that are going to be adjusted and changed through the first 6 months probably of the game as everybody starts to explore that item database that exists in Project Epoch that hasn't been discovered yet. And I think it's one of the most exciting aspects of Epoch is all those things that we haven't seen, all those quests, all those items, all those different things. And it's interesting too about the Hunter. One of the things is I don't think you can even tame a Ravager in this version of the game, which is really interesting because Ravager was like the go-to pet. And I think it was a really good decision not to allow people to tame the Ravager because now you're forcing people to do something different. And it's never fun to see people do exactly the same thing they've always done on servers. And so I think taking that out of the equation was actually a really cool move. So, all right, that's it. I'm out of here. Peace out.